Hey guys, Lorene here with silverliningnation. Hope you guys are having an amazing day, and we just want to thank you guys for tuning in to Silverlining We really appreciate it. Also guys, make sure you share, subscribe, and most of all, stay sober. Bye guys. Hey y'all, welcome to Silverlining Nation, and today I am super excited y'all because I have my sponsor here with me. I know you guys always hear me talking about her, and I'm sure that I'm this important. Even if I'm not, I'm gonna say it in my head. I know you guys were wondering, do she really have a sponsor? Well, I actually do, and it's Tanya.
Oh my God, y'all pray for me. Thanks for having me, Lorene. I'm so excited to be here. Finally.
Yeah, finally.
It's taken a minute to get my invite. I don't know.
Oh Lord.
I don't know.
How many times have I invited you?
Many times. Many times. I'm just giving you a hard time.
Yeah, I know, but you know I ain't gonna let that pass, girl.
No, I know.
So Tanya's gonna share with us today, guys, about what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. So, Tanya, first of all, let our viewers know how long you've been sober, and let's start it off with that.
Sure. Hi, Tanya. Am I allowed to say it?
Mm-hmm.
Addict, alcoholic. There's rules here. Just want to make sure I follow them. I've been kept sober since January 21st of 2008. So if you can do some quick math, it's some time. It's a few days. And that's kind of what it is, right? It's just one day at a time, really. Mm-hmm. It's very easy to get caught up in a number. But don't get me wrong, I love my number. Still working on the ego. But I always kind of like to start these with what it's like now. It's always encouraged, we talk about, what it used to be like, what happened, what it's like now. I think it's just important for me to kind of check in what it's like now. Mm-hmm. And, when someone asks me, how are you? Mm-hmm. I say, I'm happy. And I would not have been able to say that 16 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. The how are you would have been like a simple like, I'm good, but I can't seem to get my electric bill paid. Mm-hmm. I'm hungover. Mm-hmm. I am in distress, in some sort of distressing situation, self-inflicted, I come to find out. But today it's, even my most challenging of days is still happy, mm-hmm. and it's still mm-hmm. joy. And, the program that I'm in has really taught me how to keep that in perspective. Because before, circumstances and my feelings really ruled my life. Mm-hmm. And, and I grew up in an alcoholic home. Mm-hmm. My real father was an alcoholic, bipolar. Who knows which one came first? Back in
not important.
Back in those days, that's just not something anybody ever knew or talked mm-hmm. about. So, I do have very fond memories, but also have scary memories that I didn't know were really scary at the time. My father would come home highly inebriated and, down all the pills in the bathroom. And I just remember thinking as, like 2 or 3, having these thoughts of like, oh, Dad must have a headache. Mm-hmm. I got to take a really cool ride in an ambulance a couple times, press the buttons, make the sounds go off. Like, I didn't really know the extent of what was really going on at home. Mm-hmm. My mom smartly divorced him later. And it was just her and I remember that just being the greatest time when it was just her and I. My dad would sometimes show up on Sundays and sometimes wouldn't. Mm-hmm. I didn't understand why. I thought he didn't love me. I thought mm-hmm. that maybe he forgotten about me. And, bless my mom's heart having to manage that, right? And unfortunately, she became my object of resentment, because I didn't have anybody to turn to of blame, right? So poor mom got a lot of it. And then my mom, being a good enabler that she is, brought in another alcoholic into our home. And, he wasn't my favorite person. And he made my mom happy. The happiest she knew how to be.
Right.
And, my little brother was born, and I became the protector of the home. He liked to come home after a hard day's work, and sit in his chair and just drink. And that's just it was just always around all of our activities, dinners. It was always seemed to be around alcohol. Alcohol just always seemed to be around. My real dad, unfortunately, he was just very hit or miss. And a big turning point in my life is whenever it was one of his misses. He died of a drunk driving incident on his birthday. So
wow.
Him and my grandfather were out celebrating, and he didn't come and get me the next day, and I was very upset about that. So we were supposed to celebrate his birthday. And then Monday, my mom came and got me from school and pulled me out of school. I think I was in the 3rd or 4th grade, and told me that, my dad didn't make it home from his night out. And that was my first conscious contact with God. And it was not a very positive one. So I blamed God. That he took my dad away, and he left me with this monster in my home. And I also blamed my grandfather. Yeah. I was fortunate enough to be able to make amends for that before he passed 2 years ago. So good. I was well in my recovery, still holding on to some of that. And, there's still some things that, I'm working through as an adult with a lot of them. But living in an alcoholic home, I learned a lot about my environment, how to keep myself protected, and I created coping mechanisms called denial and manipulation, fancy word for lying, and many trips to the police in the middle of the night, try to sneak out and try to tell somebody what was going on at home. And, I was just labeled an out of control teenager. I made a conscious decision to really, not be like them. Even though there was a lot of drinking, and I definitely was encouraged to drink with them, and I did. Every time I drank, it was never just like one, to try it. It was just like, oh, this is a wine cooler, we drink it. And then I would just down it, and then just sit and wait and be like, what's supposed to happen now?
And now, how old were you this time?
I think my first drink was probably at 13 or 14, and my mom was just like, if you're going to drink at home. I can't stop you from doing it. Plus, it was such a big part of our family. But I just kind of always knew that it was trouble. But whenever I did drink, I always I'd put it down. I just thought that that's how you did it.
Right.
And that's how I always did it. When I was 16, they took me to the boardwalk and challenged me to have one drink at every single restaurant. And you know what? I did.
That's San Antonio, right?
Yes. Yeah. And I did successfully. Do you know how many restaurants are on the boardwalk? So many. But, I remember my mom getting drunk, and I've never seen her that way. My stepdad got really, really mad about it. And it's kind of a shit show. So, but, nothing really happened. Like, I never felt the effect of alcohol, really, ever.
You never got drunk?
It always went from, what's happening now to, passed out. There was never that, aha moment.
When you say passed out, are you referring to blackouts?
No, just like passed out. Like,
okay.
Oh, I'm really sleepy. I need to go, like, lay down. So there was never any kind of, aha moment that some literature talks about. And, that's just how it was. But I was shipped off to boarding school after my sophomore year. And that was tough because I didn't know that I was going. They put me in the car, drove me away. I was in a lot of trouble all the time, though. I was running away from home. I was very promiscuous because I was looking for attention, looking for connection. I didn't know that that's what was going on, but that definitely was the thing. And my home life was just so out of control. I was just constantly just seeking some sort of like settle.
Right.
And my picker was broken. So I always seemed to pick drug dealers, alcoholic, drinking, older men too. Ooh, it wasn't safe. My behavior was very out of control, even though it was quite justified. And, my relationship with my stepdad was getting worse and worse. He was coming home and mistaking me as my mom, putting holes in walls. It was just getting real feisty. At home, because I wasn't one to back down from a fight.
No.
That's something that I kept, know. That's something I kept. I like that about myself, so I kept it. Because I felt like I needed to protect my mom and protect my brother and protect myself. And, and sometimes you got to punch a bully in the face, even if he's running around with a machete. It's not good, so at the time I was really mad that they did that they shipped me off to boarding school. I look back and I was just like, man, this is probably the best thing for me. So it got me
So
away
they didn't
from
have recovery instead of recovery and
that wasn't
all
even
that stuff.
like a word.
Yeah.
What? Like you recover from a hangover with a beer, but that's about...
I mean, these recovery places that you can go to now, they use the boarding schools.
Yeah, I guess, because I wasn't drinking with my friends. I mean, even though my friends were drinking and I was hanging out with them, I think they only assumed so, everybody was smoking and doing drugs and I was hanging out with them, but I just wasn't. Fortunately, I was in sports and I found a lot of success in that, so I wanted just to kind of, hang out, but still, honor my basketball, my volleyball team. But, you're guilty by association, I guess. And, I mean, I was running away from home with boys. I mean, at one point there were bars on my windows, so it wasn't good.
Yeah.
They did the best that they could, and they sent me away. We used the trust fund that my late father had left, and sent me off to boarding school, and I've never been home since.
Because your mom was the overseer of that, so that's why she was able to. Yeah.
And, I don't know what goes on behind closed doors. I really have, to this day, do not know how that conversation even happened. But they were like, it's a college preparatory school. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. The first night, my suite mates and I are huffing Glade in the bathroom. So you can imagine.
What's Glade?
Like the air freshener.
Oh, my God.
Oh.
I'm like, what's Glade? I know glue.
Basically huffing really strong glue.
Okay.
Yeah. So, so this was a school for kids that were out of control, right? But I figured out the rules pretty quickly, and I was like, kind of started dawning on me, even though I was still mad I couldn't say bye to my friends. It's like I disappeared off the face of the planet. And but there was some rules, and as long as I stay within these rules, everybody leaves me alone. Gold. Yeah. Finally. I can do what I want, when I want, how I want, as long as because the rules were quite clear. They were not clear at home, right? I would get grounded for the most mundane things. And so I really thrived there. and then they put me on release so I could check myself out. Yo, I could check myself out. What is happening? So yeah, I would go and, you know, hang out at people's houses on the weekends, but I would never drink, ever, because I didn't want to be like my family. And then I told myself that after this huffing incident, and I ended up throwing up all over the place later, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do any drugs until I'm 18. Because 18 is some sort of magical number where I have arrived into adulthood and I will know better. And maybe the only promise I ever kept to myself in my addiction. So I did wait until I was 18. You know, got high with my boyfriend, ended up throwing up everywhere in the shower. You know, it just was not a great experience.
Doesn't sound like one.
No, but what happens when it's not great? I didn't do it right, so let me go try again.
I'm going to do it again.
Yeah.
I'm going to get it right this time.
So I was out of season. I did all the things. One of the captains of the football team, like, started taking interest, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. You know, like, we all know. Girls, you know. And so I met him up in a hotel because that's what we do. And I just got insanely drunk because I was trying to fit in with this guy.
Now, you're still in boarding school.
Still in boarding school. I was a senior. It was not good. It's not good because, again, I didn't know how to, like, drink properly, right? I just drank and drank and drank until I waited for effect. Usually the effect is passing out or throwing up. And that's what happened. I threw up, I passed out. I woke up in the back of a moving car with him on top of me. And it was like nothing I have ever experienced. My head, I'm screaming, no, you know, I don't know what my body is doing. I pass out again. I get to a house. I kind of wake up, same thing, situation is happening. I'm just mortified because I can't do anything about it. I don't want this to happen this way. And I'm saying, no, at least I think so. I have no idea. I pass out again, and then I just kind of wake up in the middle of the night, abandoned, and it's like an empty apartment. I have no idea where I'm at. So I call a friend of mine. He comes and gets me, takes me over to their house, and, you know, they have rails of cocaine, and they said, here, try this. And I said, anything to make the change the way I feel. And
did you ever tell anyone that happened?
No.
It was a secret.
Big secret. Yeah, so much shame and guilt around that because it was like my fault, right? Even though I kind of knew it wasn't, I just didn't want to have all the consequences that come out with that at school, right? And then just my own stuff, like, you just kind of block it out and you just go. And that's exactly what I did. And, you know, with the presence of some cocaine, made it very easy. And, you know, and that's what I did. And I did a lot of it on the weekends. And a lot of it. I graduated. I don't really remember, but I did graduate. And, you know, I moved to Waco. And I got knocked up pretty quick by some guy because why not? And, you know, I tried to force that relationship. He came home and, you know, beat me up a little bit and decided that that wasn't going to work out. So I went and had an abortion and I didn't tell anybody. And that's when it really went into hyperdrive, right? It was just secret after secret after secret. I was escaping to A&M to see some friends on the weekends, and I was just like a party. But I never really drank because I'm not a drinker. Drinkers do fucked up shit. I'm a drug addict. That's fine. Right? That's totally
justification.
Fine. Oh,
how we justify.
And I did that, and that's just kind of what I would do. I would, you know, I would use to an excess, and I found myself on a 2-week bender up for God knows how long. I called my mom and was just like, I want to die. I want to go to sleep or die. Please help me. So she came, she dropped me off at Green Oaks. And
now there's your treatment center.
That was my first treatment center at 18 years old. I detoxed for about 2 or 3 days. I don't really remember a lot of it because I was up for so long, and there was a lot of delirium going on there. And then they decided to put me in outpatient treatment, and I learned a lot. I learned so much about why you are the way you are, and none of it really related to me. I was an outpatient with nurses and doctors who would talk about like stealing pills and writing themselves prescriptions. I was like, I do cocaine off strippers. Like, I don't know, like, what your problem is, you know? But I just did the program, you know, like I did the program. I really did learn a lot about behavioral sciences, and I got a lot of ammunition about why I was the way that I was, and it totally justified it.
Because you had all that knowledge.
All that information. It's like, oh, of course. Yeah, you see why I used to escape, because my childhood was shit. Okay, cool. Next, you know. And that was only as good as it went, right? So part of the program was to go to oh, sorry.
You okay?
My bad.
We got you.
Go to a meeting. And we went as a group to the Louisville group, and I found my first hostage in that group. And he was adorable, and I put him in my pocket, and we left.
You were 13 stepping already.
I already knew the 13th step, didn't even know it. I didn't hear anything in there, you know. I probably went to, I don't know, a handful of meetings I couldn't even tell you, and didn't hear a thing. And just knew that they were drinkers, and I wasn't a drinker. Right? Like, y'all are bottom feeders. I have real problems. I like high-level problems. You know, really expensive problems. You know, so I got a job because I'm not going home. I'm not going home. So I got a job in the restaurant business because that's where all drug addicts and alcoholics can really, really get together and do it.
Liquor after work.
Yes.
Man.
Yeah, and I met this guy. Didn't know it at the time, but he became my father's son. We met as he was doing
your son's father.
My son's father. Did I say it backwards? Maybe. Yeah, my son's father, my father's son. Oh yeah, not my father's son. That would be weird. Yeah, he was doing a walkout. He was like, "Fuck this place. Who's coming with me?" And I'm like, I will. I like some good drama. What's going on? My name's Tanya. Like, who are you?
That's what I do.
Yeah, let me clock out though really quick because I'm actually coming back.
I want my money.
Yeah. So, you know, I left with him, and I got stoned in the car. Didn't even think about it. I think it was like 3 months dry. I won't even say sober. I was 3 months dry. Got stoned in the car. And, you know, our life began. Right.
Bonnie and Clyde.
Oh, man. Got into some entrepreneurship. You know, moving some weights. Not the barbell kind. Yeah, and then I discovered my my next best friend, ecstasy. And that was another aha moment, right? It was just like, oh, this is it. Like, if I can just feel like this all the time.
What I've been missing.
This is what I've been missing. Where has this been? Why is it so expensive? But it's not cocaine. As long as I'm not doing cocaine, everything is fine, right? Yeah. If you do ecstasy for a month straight, you do end up pregnant.
Oh, okay.
So, disclaimer out there. And, you know, I was in love. And so, you know, we did that journey. Fortunately, Jonathan is a very healthy 22-year-old today.
He grew up in their rooms.
He did. We grew up together, right? So I was 21 whenever he was born.
Can relate to that.
Yeah, you can, right? With
yes,
Nicholas.
ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, I don't recommend it, but I'm super grateful. Very grateful. I remember being at the club after he was born. He was at home with some sitters that we gave some pills for payment. Don't ask me. It only makes sense to some people. And I remember Lizard Lounge for those who remember that spot. I just remember taking.
I remember that place.
Yeah, love the Lizard Lounge. I just remember taking the pill, knowing that I didn't want to, and then doing it anyway. Because I just didn't know how not to.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't imagine a life without it.
Yeah.
I wasn't exposed to anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And then the following weekend, I did it again. And then I did it again. And then I was just like, why do I keep doing this?
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand, And then finally I got ahead of it a little bit. And it was like, hey, Tanya, we're about to go. And I'm like, put the brakes on. I said, no. I'm not doing that anymore. Mm-hmm. And, hey, baby daddy, can't be selling drugs anymore. We have an infant in the house. Mm-hmm. We can't live this life anymore. And I kind of remember making that decision. He wasn't excited. Mm-hmm. Ended up packing his stuff and he left. So Jonathan was probably 1 at the time when that happened. And whenever he left, man, I had no problem drinking. Mm-hmm. No problem. I was out and my baby daddy was actually there and I got hammered. But this time I didn't go from sipping to passed out. Mm-hmm. I did experience that same thing that I experienced with the ecstasy and the cocaine was that that moment of sweet release where you just don't give a fuck about anything, right? All the voices in your head shut the hell up. No more hiding that shame, guilt. There was just an ease, right? And man, I chased that ease for years later.
And then never get it.
Never got it back.
Never.
And if I did, it was it was
it's gone.
It was like that.
Yeah.
It was shit, give me another Tawaka. And, I was drinking every other night because, that's kind of how our split shifts were. And, for whatever reason, I didn't drink when Jonathan was home. I was super hungover, though. At the end of my drinking, that rule definitely went away. Because what would happen is I would get off work as a bartender, and I would drink until the last possible minute, until I have to leave to go pick him up from daycare. And how did they not know that I was... I mean, there would be times when I'd be passing out at the red light. And, all those things I said that I would never do, I was doing.
Yeah.
And it just, I look back on it, and I still kind of get that, God, man, it's not as bad as it used to be, but it's still kind of, the body just remembers, just like that. You dumbass.
How did I do that with my kid?
Yeah.
Put him in danger.
And it took a lot of work to work through that. A lot of work. And, as much as I would love to sit here and tell you and, Silver Lining Nation that I got sober for my son and we lived happily ever after, that is not what happened. Right. I was on boyfriend number whatever at the time because that's how I rolled. Somebody's got to pay the bills. Not going to be me. I need a drink. And, one's never enough, even when it comes to men. And, I got busted. And a blackout drunk, got busted. I was making out with some other guy in the parking lot while my live-in boyfriend at the time was watching. He was mortified.
Why?
Mortified?
Why would he do that?
I was making out with some other dude. Yeah, it was tough. It was tough. I remember there's not a lot that day that I remember. It was a lot of day drinking, so there's not a lot that I remember. I think I conjured up some story about, like, I was locked inside a bathroom and couldn't leave because he wanted me to come home. I don't really know, unfortunately. And he doesn't either because he doesn't know what was going on. And, yeah, I woke up in the middle of the night to an empty apartment to a note that says, we're done. And I was like, I'm going to cut that.
So you're going to the 12-step program.
Going to the 12-step program. And I went to work the next day because it was a Stars game on a Sunday. It's like a 3:00 game. So I had to go to work the next day, and I was still so hungover. I had like those puffy eyes. I had a black eye. I don't know where that came from, but I had a black eye. And I remember my boss looking at me going, like, you've looked rough before, but this is bad. I was like, I'm so hungover. It's so bad. So I was bartending lunch on Monday. Ugh, it's like the worst shift. And so he pulled me in the office. He was like, what's going on? I'm like, I think I've got a drinking problem. And
like he didn't know.
And yeah, I'm sure he wasn't shocked. But yeah, he introduced me. Actually, there was a couple of regulars that came into the restaurant that I waited on. I had no idea were in our program.
Yeah. We experience that now. When we
we're just like
a lot.
Yeah. So I had no idea. So he took me to my first meeting.
So you need to be on here more so you can practice.
Yeah, no kidding. You're going to have a lot of work to do. So I went to my first meeting at the Addison group and picked up a desire chip, and that's been it. That's been it. That was my last desire chip. Was that day. And a lot of work.
That's amazing.
A lot of work has been done.
Yeah.
You know, and nobody wakes up and says, I can't wait to go dig up all of my secrets in my past
and tell them
share
to
them with somebody else.
Yeah. And make myself look bad.
Oh, it was, you know.
Well, I have to tell you, I am so blessed that you were there. I didn't know that I would be saying this 13 years later.
Can you believe that? 13 years?
I can't. I mean, I asked a couple of women to sponsor me.
Oh, bless their heart.
And they told me no.
Why?
I have no idea.
Oh, they just said no, like as a complete sentence?
Yeah.
Oh, good for them.
Look.
I love that.
You know, a lot of time people ask, we have this joke. I tell people who my sponsor is, and we wait for it. You know, the look they give us.
Yeah.
And it's like we ask them,
like,
what are you thinking? Why wouldn't she be my sponsor? Who are you envision that would be my sponsor?
Yeah. And what did they usually say, though?
They would think someone older most of the time.
Yeah. Because and I get that too.
I guess I have all this wisdom when I'm sure.
So wise. No.
But they don't put me and you together. We get that a lot.
We do. And as I really enjoy that.
I love introduce
surprising people.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
And I love awkwardness. If anything, the program has taught me how to be comfortable with uncomfortable.
Yes.
And like a good alcoholic, I'm like, let's do more of that.
And we do it a lot. Because I do it because I want to see that shock.
Yeah.
Because when I'm talking about you in meetings and saying, you know, I'm pissed off at my sponsor. You know, I'm mad at her, but she don't know I'm mad at her. Or I'll say something that you've taught me, you know, and one of the biggest blessings that I got from you, and I'm forever grateful, when it came to working this step, was it 2 where turn a higher power.
How's that working out for you?
And I told you we could skip that step because I'm Baptist and I already got a higher power. I believe in God. And you said to me, how is that working out for you? And I heard in my head, my mom told me, to get away from people that diss the God, our God, and that's what you were doing. So in my head, I gotta fire you.
Yeah, I was terrified.
I looked and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get rid of her. And you looked at me and said, so you're gonna fire me, right? And I'm like, how the hell did she know that?
So we're done.
And after I went home, I thought about it. All the times I've been going to church and praying and asking God to relieve me from this drug and alcoholism, and it never happened. So that God that I had wasn't working. So that's how our relationship is. I don't immediately fall into what you tell me, suggest.
It would make it so much easier if you would.
I know, but if it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have a challenge.
That's true.
So
that's true.
That's why God put me in your life, so you could have one.
I do. And I remember sitting with your fifth step in my apartment, right? Because that's whenever I invite my sponsees into my personal space. And we were going through it. It was that time, that fourth column, you know, like, you know, which part kind of start identifying some character defects. Oh my gosh. I was like, okay, just say it. Say it. Say it. It's like, and you're selfish. And I just kind of remember taking a metaphoric, like, oh.
You were afraid to tell me?
I mean, I put up a really good front, y'all. But yeah, no, you've taught me how to say tough things, and you've taught me how to be courageous, and you've challenged me, and you've really made me think, you know, like why, you know, even though, you know, why is part of the problem, but really like where's it coming from, and kind of taking a couple more steps back. You know, I remember my mom would always say, because I said so. And you really challenge that and make sure that what I'm giving, you know, isn't, you know, how Tanya sees it, but generally how, you know, authentically, you know, I can relate through our literature and through, you know, a higher power. And I'm a better human because of it. And I'm so always so grateful for you and Chauncey and all the women, you know, in my life. All of you have sponsored me. You've sponsored me more than I sponsor you, really. And now that you have, you know, sponsees, you understand that.
Oh, yeah. I respect you a lot more.
You're really good with the newcomer, though. You are so, you have a gift.
I love newcomers.
Yeah, you have a special, unique gift for the newcomer. I'm like your phase 2 sponsor.
Yeah, you are. It's like, yeah, I think each one of us, I love being a sponsor. That's where I get most, I love this program.
Yeah.
You know?
It saved my life.
Yeah, my producer says that I light up when I talk about the program, because that's what I know. Yeah. You know, I know my disease. I don't know about a lot of other shit, but I know my disease. I can tell you about what I've gone through, and I can share with you what it's like and what it's like now. So
yeah,
it's amazing when you sit across from another person and you see that light bulb goes off. And I remember one time I called you and I said, I don't know what the hell's going on. And I said, it's just quiet. I was walking my dog and I said, I feel really weird. What's happening? And you said, it's called serenity. And I was like, what? You said, it's serenity. That's what you're feeling. And I've never forgot where I was, what time it was, and what I was doing when you told me that.
But you did the work, and that's a big part of our program, right? You know, I always kind of share this about, what is it? Trust God, tie your camel. You know, so it's a two-way street here.
Yes.
And I kind of always use God as like either Santa Claus or somebody to hate on, you know. And the relationship that I have with my higher power, you know, is always evolving. And sometimes it's really, really big, and then sometimes they need to be really, really small. And that's what's so great about the concept of the higher power. And it allows me to accept others too, right? You know, the church has helped so many people.
Right.
Who am I to judge? And that's what's so great.
And it tells us in our literature.
Yeah, and this is, what you do here, about sharing not just about the 12-step program, but also other avenues. We were talking about this the other day, like, I didn't hear and get it the first time at treatment. Some do. And that's wonderful, right? And, some go to Celebrate Recovery or Dharma or,
It's so many, we did talk about that.
Yeah.
It's so many different ways. And I had, once again, I have to give that to my producer too, because I wanted to, no, we're going to do 12-step. And she deals with me, so you can imagine.
I don't have to imagine. I've lived this life.
Yeah. No, we're just doing that, and we need to, there's other ways. Let's listen to other people. Other viewers might see that. But gradually I get there. I tell her, just be patient with me. Once I get there, I'm all in.
Yeah.
But I got to get there. We're going to wrap it up. Before we wrap it up, I want to tell you, I want to discuss with you really fast, like, I'm known as, a lot of my sponsors that I brought on the show, they say, I tell them, I don't have time for that crying shit. You're known as, you used to do this to me all the time, and I used to get so freaking mad. People, ex-sponsors and your new sponsors and your current sponsors can attest to this. If I call you and I'm going through something, and I remember when I first got sober, you used to really piss me off. So-and-so's going on, Tanya. Have you prayed about it? What? You hang up. You are known as the B sponsor in the program for doing that, in case you didn't know.
Okay, well, mission accomplished. And just for clarification, this is worked up to, right? Like, this isn't like your first phone call and I'm like, hey, did you pray about it? Bye, bitch. No. There's a lot of conversations about, okay, when this comes up, be sure to pray about it. What's the next one?
And pray about it, write about it.
And then
call me.
Nope, one more. See?
Pray about it. See, it's been a long time.
So it's pray about it, it's write about it, read about it.
Okay.
Our literature has so many resources.
Yeah.
I think
you're really good with, you always, anytime I come to you, you open that book up and say, this is what you need. Yeah. See, that's why I missed that. Cause
she ain't reading her book. Yeah, I mean, because after we talked about that for a while, and you still want to call me with your shit, and you're not doing the work because you're not tying your camel, I'm not going to do it for you, right? And it's my job as a sponsor, and I take this super seriously, is not to make decisions for you, and it's not to do it for you. It's to help you start thinking and trusting yourself, because I know for me, I didn't trust myself. I could not think for myself.
Right.
I was at the mercy of every feeling, fear, and thought, and what other people thought of me every moment of the day. So whenever I got to, the program, I was terrified of making decisions because all my decisions sucked, right? And my sponsor, my first sponsor, like, she was just like...
Miss Betty.
She was just like, you're going to learn how to, like, trust yourself and trust your higher power. And it took that. She hung up on me, right? Yeah. After she would say, did you read about it? Did you pray about it? Did you write about it? And be like, no, but, click. No, but, click. And then finally I'd be like, yes, I prayed about it. She's like, okay. Did you write about it? Well, I click. I'm like, fuck.
Right? Stop hanging up.
I need to talk to you. But I didn't. She really, taught me that it was okay for me to do the work. I didn't, I didn't need to have somebody over my shoulder the whole time, that it was time for me to take ownership of my program. And, because of that, I have so many blessings today that I could never have. I mean, I asked for some of them, never thinking that they would come true, and they did. And then I have so many other blessings that I would never have even known to ask for.
Right.
Right.
Don't leave until a miracle happens.
Yeah. And it's not just one. It should say miracles. It should be plural.
Exactly. Yes.
Plural. So, fans, read about it, write about it, pray about it, and call your sponsor.
Also, Tanya, before we end, I want to talk about something that I think that's amazing that you're doing. And in fact, the reason it's on my mind is because I have some sponsees, which are your grand sponsors, that are really benefiting from it. And, you know, it's your meditation yoga. So I want you to tell us more about how that works and what you're doing with it. It's something new that you've started, and it's a part of recovery as well. So,
thank you so much for asking. So, the yoga journey has been next level. I'm a spiritual giant. No, all seriousness. My very first sponsor introduced me to yoga, and she knew how important physical activity was, especially first getting sober. I had a lot of energy, nowhere to go. So she introduced me to yoga, and that was probably about 15 years ago. So I've been practicing for a really long time, and I've incorporated it into my program, into my way of life. And it has really elevated my prayer meditation life. And as I become, more disciplined in breath work and the physical practice, I've noticed, a lot of not just physical benefits, but also mental and emotional benefits as well. And something that the program has taught me is if I want to keep it, I have to give it away.
Yes.
And because this practice has really, been such a supplement, a great supplement to my recovery program, I committed to getting my certification. So I became 200-hour certification in November.
Awesome.
After many attempts, COVID definitely ruined, but it just wasn't time. Right. So and then as soon as I was certified, I brought it to our group through the right channels of Group Conscious and steering committee. We can have a whole nother discussion about that. So we've been practicing weekly. And I've seen a lot of growth already from the students that are coming. And it's such I almost have no words for how to, it's like trying to explain God to you. Like, I can't. But the one question that I get a lot is, how does yoga have anything to do with recovery? And I will say, go to a class and find out. The idea of pause when agitated, so we take this literature, there's a line that says pause when agitated. It's like, well, what does that look like? And I'm like you, I want to get all the way down. It's like, pause when agitated. Great. I know that, but what does that even mean? What does that look like? For me, that's yoga, right? That pause is a breath. And it's a conscious breath, and it is meaningful, and it is connected. And the more that I can take them, I become more calm, and then I can think much more clearly. And it allows the feelings, right, that we're always trying to manage or avoid or drink over or use over. It allows that to pass for me. And I become more open to solutions that either come from my sponsor, from my higher power, or just trusting in myself and having some intuition and knowing what to do. And I just want to share that with everyone all the time. So everybody take a deep breath in.
Can you tell us your website where we can, the viewers that might be interested in learning more?
Okay. So if you do want to learn more, I did create a website. It's called Alchemy Fit. I know it's kind of a funny word, alchemy. It's about transformation. Taking something very normal and making something beautiful and for the world. And I think that we are all alchemists in our own way, especially in recovery. We come in very down and dirty, and I know the book says we aren't rendered white as snow, but you know, a nice shade of yellow is definitely progress. And so on my website, you can find lots of information about the benefits of yoga, different types of yoga that you can participate in. There is contact information as well. So if you'd like to have a coach, I do have coaches in the area that can help you. If you're not in the area, then we can definitely do online support as well. Okay. And, you know, we're just starting. So we do have a network of teachers that specialize in different aspects of the practice, which is like Reiki or sound baths. And we also have a fitness coach, and I think it's important to mention that because strength training and just activity in recovery is super beneficial. It gets those endorphins going, kind of gets that feel good, you know, going that we really crave. But it gets it going naturally in the way it was intended instead of, you know, through drugs and alcohol. So yeah, we're just getting started. I do one-on-one coaching for meditation, for breath work, and of course the yoga practice itself.
And at the end, guys, I'll have Tanya's information if you guys want to contact her. I'll have her website and her other information. It's always posted on our on the podcast.
That's great.
So yeah. Well, thank you, Tanya, so much for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
And good luck.
And hopefully I'll see you in class soon.
You will, because I get so much out of it.
Yeah.
I really enjoy
your practice is amazing.
Yeah.
It is.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure having you on.
Yeah, I was glad to be here. Thank you for having me. This is great. And thanks, Tam.
Well, guys, we are going to wrap it up, and I hope you guys have enjoyed this podcast as much as I have. And once again, if nobody tells you today that they love you, hear it from us here at Silver Lining. We love you. Bye, guys.